Okay, my name is Mr. Fadehon Olanrewaju Adekunle, the husband of late Mrs. Kemi Adesola Fadehon. I am a victim of unprofessionalism in our healthcare system and also negligence. My wife was billed for delivery in the month of August at a hospital. Actually, she had an antenatal program spanning through a period of about 5 months at the place. As the husband too, I was required to donate blood, which I did. She was a booked CS patient. So our EDD was meant to be in September, somewhere around September the 5th. But she was told to come 2 weeks before that time, precisely August 18th, for her delivery. So on the 17th, she was booked at the hospital and slated for the next day for the CS. Now, on the day of the CS, the doctor, the consultant that was supposed to be on her case, that had always been on her file, was not around, and some other doctor was the one that took delivery, that is performed the CS. One would have expected that in the absence of such a person, that is the consultant, someone else who is also equally a consultant should be the one to operate her. But someone with less competence to handle the case was the one that handled it. So the operation started at about 4:30, and we got all the things that we were supposed to get. But 2.5 hours into the operation, actually it was strange too that a CS operation, because she has had operations before, maybe just like 30-45 minutes, but it was surprising that that was spanning over 3.5 hours in all. But 2.5 hours into the operation, I was called in to come and witness what was happening, and the need for me to get some extra materials like extra pints of blood and oxytocin, because they said she was having excessive bleeding. At that point, the doctor called me in that I shouldn't have allowed my wife to go through a third CS, that I was actually putting her through too much pressure, that her uterus was weak, this and that. At that point, I saw that all the intestinal contents, everything with the uterus was out, and she was saying that, well, what she wanted me actually to sign an undertaking that the uterus be removed. But that on a second thought, since they are actually winning the war against the excessive bleeding, that one will not be necessary again, but I will need to get extra oxytocin so that it will help the uterus to contract and all of that, and get extra pints of blood, which I did. Actually, my wife at that point was praying. So after that, about 3.5 hours into the operation, everything was concluded. We got the blood, and they gave the blood to her. Not in the hospital. They didn't have that blood in the hospital. I had to go outside to get that. Now, it took my wife about 3 days for her to start recovering, to start doing little movements here and there. So, but to the glory of God, as we felt, she started getting better. She was able to stand up and all of that, and do one or two few things in the hospital. So they said she should start taking some water and probably pap, which she started taking. But about 2 days into that is after taking the water and the pap, we noticed that her stomach started swelling back to how it was at pregnancy. So at that point, I was so jittered, and we had to tell the doctors, and they told us that she should stop taking anything, that she will be placed on drips. But she was not placed on drips immediately, and At some times she will be on drips, at some times it will not be there. So eventually she was complaining of weakness, dry tongue and all of that. So we now started noticing that she was having shortness of breath because of the enlarged tummy. But she was still well gathered. She was still in control of herself as at that point. So we felt that something should be done so quickly to arrest the situation. But they were saying that, well, what was happening was normal. Sometimes it happens that it may just be that the intestines are inactive and all of that, that it will need time to gain traction. So they asked us to do some scans and some x-rays, which most of the doctors around could not even interpret. They were just useless. So on the 8th day, that's the day slated for the naming. After the naming, they just asked us to have a referral to another hospital. So they decided that they would move her to that other hospital. At that point, she was very weak. At that point, she was having some form of hallucination, and she was really not so much in control of herself. So she was moved on the 8th day after the operation, precisely, I think, on the 25th of August. So eventually, some doctors started coming in from that place. One doctor of note, when I asked her what was actually going on, that couldn't something be done on time, she assured me that what she felt was that the intestines just needed time because of the long exposure, they were inactive and they will need to get back on track and all of that. That may not need an operation. But precisely on Saturday after that, I think on the 27th of August now, she decided that she was to be opened up, because on that day she passed out some stool which she had not been passing out before, and she noticed that the stool that was coming out from her anus was the same liquid that was on the place where she was operated. So the place where she was operated also was having some form of liquid, like fecal liquid coming out from that place too. So she decided that she at that point should be operated. So we got all the materials and the operation kick-started around 9 in the evening. So I was told that they had to operate on an intestine that had been ruptured in the process of the first CS they did, and that the tummy now, they had to pack a lot of feces, intestinal products out of the cavity. As at that point that she decided to do the second operation, she was having very high and severe temperature. She was really not so much in control of herself again, having hallucinations and all of that. So after the operation, they said for the intestines that was operated to get healed, that she will have to be moved to the ICU for closer monitoring and all of that. But unfortunately, on the 3rd day, after the second corrective operation, she gave up the ghost. And at that point, even before she gave up the ghost, they said because of so much infection, that the infection had caused organ failures, that like the kidney, that they needed to call a kidney expert, they needed to call a neurosurgeon also to come and observe her and all of that. It was just what happened.